Profits, profits, and profits. If you're a business owner, then profit is right at the top of your list of things that you either should be or are focused on. Hello, everyone. I'm Janine Liston. I am the Pricing Lady, and you are live with the Pricing Lady. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to talk about profits. Yes. And ways that you can look at optimizing your profit using better pricing. Now, many of you have watched the show and listened to me talk about this. I want to repeat it again because I think it really merits your attention. And that's the study that was done by McKinsey back in 2003, where they looked at the impact of the 4 profit levers. Now, in your business and in any business, there are 4 things that influence your profitability: your fixed costs, your variable costs, your prices, yes, and your volume. And of those 4 things, what this study showed was that pricing was, for most businesses, almost any business, the most impactful profit lever, meaning that the more attention that you're spending on that, the better you're actually managing your profitability. Now, that doesn't mean that you should not focus on the other things at all. Of course, they all work in combination to either deliver profits or not. My point has always been that companies spend a lot of time, especially focused on costs, and they're not putting at least as much time into their pricing and wondering why they aren't getting the results. And that is one of the reasons, because they're not giving it the attention that it warrants. If it is indeed the most impactful profit lever in your business, that means that you need to be doing it better. What do I mean by better? Well, one of the aspects of being better at pricing is understanding that it's more than just finding a number. Your job is actually to manage those prices over time. Your job is to know how to communicate around those prices effectively. Your job is also to understand how pricing is influencing those profits. So all of these things have to come together on top of or along with how you're setting your prices as well, how you're delivering those prices as well. So you can see there's much more to it than simply setting a price. And that's where being able to optimize your profits through better pricing gets really interesting. So let's take a look at a few ways that you can go about doing this. Now, before we get into that, there is one thing that you have to understand is you have to understand your figures and how, when you make changes to your price or your cost structure or your volume, how those things influence your profitability. So if you're like one of these companies that were in the McKinsey study, on average, a 1% price increase yielded an 8% increase in profit, which was significantly bigger impact than the other 3 profit levers. Again, why we're having this conversation. When you know and understand those figures, then you can make better business decisions because you understand the potential impact those decisions have on your business. Now, sometimes when you look at what's going wrong with profitability in your business, you might find out that you're positioned improperly, right? So that your price position, you're either too high of a price or too low of a price. Now, if you remember back to an earlier episode where I spoke about the leaky bucket of pricing, you'll know that how you position yourself in the marketplace is like the tap that you're using to fill your bucket. Right? If you turn that tap on and there's a nice powerful stream of profit coming into your profit bucket, then you're doing well. But if you're not positioned well, then you're going to be working with a tap that's just kind of dripping bits and drabs of profit into your business. That's definitely what we don't want. So making sure that you're positioned correctly is one aspect. And a lot of times what happens to businesses over the years is they set a price, but they don't really take the time to continue to monitor and see when those prices actually need to be adapted and how. So 2, 3, 5, 10 or more years down the road, something's not working right. And then when you take a look at it, you realize that actually your position in the marketplace no longer actually suits either what the customer is looking for or what the competitors are offering, something has changed, and maybe you need to reposition yourself. Now, back to the leaky bucket. The other aspect of that leaky bucket is your transactional pricing. So sometimes it's not that you're positioned wrong, it's that what you're doing during the selling process is actually disrupting your profitability or ruining your profitability, if you want to put it that way. So every transaction that you make, if you say my price is 100, then every time you sell it for anything less than 100, you're putting a hole in that bucket and your profits are leaking out. So again, it may not be that you're wrong, your position is wrong in the market. It may be that the wheeling and dealing that you're doing, the special offers that you're making, even if you're a B2B business and you're working with channels and you have a discount and rebate scheme, sometimes that can get out of control and you're granting discounts where you don't need to or where you shouldn't be. And again, those are just more holes that you're putting in that bucket and leaking out profits. So those are two areas that are very much related to your pricing, your positioning, and the transactional side. Now, another thing that can really affect your profitability is actually the breadth of your offering. So what do I mean by that? Well, you're going to have different offers that you make or different products in your offering. And if you have too many or too few or the wrong combination, that will also impact what people are or aren't willing to pay. So if you have too many things on offer, certainly it could be confusing for them. They can't figure out how much it might cost them, or they're not sure what's right for them. And so they go somewhere else where it's easier to figure that out. So all of a sudden, their willingness to pay for what you have to offer is very much influenced by their experience in trying to understand the offer itself. That's why it's so important to make sure that your offer is fit for purpose. And so that breadth of how much of the offering that you deliver to customers can be very influential in when it comes to what they're going to be willing to pay. Now, of course, your cost structure is going to be a big influencer of your profitability. Sometimes it will also have an impact on your pricing. Now, just because something in your cost structure goes up or down does not necessarily mean you should move your prices up or down. Yeah, that is one way that you could accommodate that, but there are other things that you could be doing as well. So when it comes to optimizing profitability, maybe the cost structure will affect your pricing, maybe not. One caveat here, quite often what businesses do when their costs go up is they raise prices and give customers that as the reason for their prices are going up. And that can be, sometimes quite, I don't want to use the word dangerous, risky is maybe a better way to put it, because of course, if you do that when they go up, then if the costs go down, the expectation is your prices will go down as well. And maybe you do, maybe you don't want to have that as a policy. And so again, when you're talking about optimizing profit, this has an influence on your profit calculation, but it may or may not also influence your prices. Next, shift in the competition. So of course, if what's going on in the competitive environment shifts, it's going to usually have some impact on your profitability. Now, if you haven't taken action or adjusted your own business to that, then you're definitely going to run into problems. And what happens oftentimes is this is kind of a slow demise. Usually it doesn't happen, or quite often it doesn't happen all of a sudden, but it will happen slowly over time. Things will shift and change. You will just be going along, doing your thing in your business. And then one day you'll feel the pain of those changes, but not at first, usually can't really define what it is. And without further review, you might not realize. So you might need to go back and take a look at that value map that you did and understand how things have changed in the marketplace and what that means for your pricing, for your offering, even for your cost structure. So again, shifts in the marketplace are something that are happening all the time. And if you're not monitoring what's out there, then you may not realize what's shifting and what's creating the pain that you're feeling on that profitability side, or what's making it so difficult for you to optimize your profitability. Again, keeping an eye out there on the market is going to help you be able to know when you can take action to optimize and what to do in order to optimize. One more category that I always find really interesting is when things are shifting with the customer. Now, what you might be kind of smiling to yourself in the back of your head on here is that all of the things that I've mentioned here are actually part of Janine's price setting thought process, right? Customer offer, the value piece, the competition piece, the cost and profit piece. So, and there's a very good reason for that, because those are the things that are influencing your prices, but they're also the things that are, quite frankly, influencing your profitability. And what often happens, again, if you're not really keeping a finger on the pulse of the marketplace, is the wants and needs of your customers can change. The customers who are enjoying your offers or your products and services, that may change over time. Maybe some people have gone to a different direction, to a different competitor, and different people are coming to you. Somehow that market has shifted in the types of customers that you're serving. And again, if you're serving different customers, that very well may have an impact on your profitability and also potentially on your pricing. So all of these things that we're talking about here are things that are affecting your business, affecting how much people are willing to pay, the people who are interested in your offers, how much they're willing to pay, and therefore are opportunities for you to be able to leverage or further optimize profitability in your business. And this is why this topic is so fascinating to me, and why the study from McKinsey is so interesting, because as I said at the beginning, so many companies are so overly focused on the cost side of it and not fully leveraging the opportunity that they have in pricing. And small changes in prices will usually yield bigger changes in profit than small changes in your costs or in your volume. Of course, yes, they all work together, but people very often overestimate the elasticity of their prices, meaning that they think if they lower the price a little bit, a lot more people will buy from them. Or if they increase their price a little bit, a lot of people will stop buying from them. That's what price elasticity is. But the reality is, in most industries, and especially in small businesses, this is rarely the case that prices are that elastic. So you can tweak those prices in different ways. You don't just have to add an increase. You can actually do this in a more clever way for your business, but you can tweak that and actually get bigger returns on the profitability side, which then you can reinvest back into your business or take home and have a big old party. That's up to you. The point here is that you have an opportunity to boost profits in your business when you're using pricing in the absolute best way you can. And that's why there's people like me to help you see how you can do that best. That's what I wanted to share with you in today's show. If you'd like to find out more about where to get started with pricing in your business, head on over to thepricinglady.com and download my scorecard, self-assessment pricing scorecard. And you'll be able to fill that out and start getting a feel for what are some of the things that you can be doing better when it comes to pricing in your business. Remember, it's all about helping you build a more sustainably profitable business for the long term, because you are charging for the value you deliver. That's all, everyone. See you next week. And until then, enjoy pricing.